Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Travis, aka Mr. Cornerstone,
and Monay, aka confidently_free.
from the Becoming One podcast. The podcast will begin shortly, but first, we have a quick message for you about Anchor.
If you haven't already heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. They literally take away all of your excuses.
First of all, it's free, and who doesn't like free? The creation tools that Anchor supplies allow you to record and edit your podcast right on your phone or computer.
And after you're done recording and editing, Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more.
You can even make money from your podcast. Now, maybe you're listening to this like, well, I don't have 10,000 subscribers or followers. Well, guess what? Again, Anchor thought of that. There is no minimum listenership.
Anchor is literally everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hey everybody, this is Travis Cornerstone Miller.
And Monay, confidently free Miller.
And this is the Becoming One podcast. Yes, sir. So this is episode 2 of the Becoming One podcast.
002.
That's right, 002, because we in this thing. But this is episode 2. I know we told y'all that we were going to get into hopelessness of marriage, but we off that. We ain't doing that no more. No,
well, it'll come back at some point, but we just have another thing going on right now.
Yeah, we just, we want to wait, actually, until we get some questions back so that people have a chance to ask Monay and myself any questions that they want to. Just because that can be a touchy or very specific topic. So we want to make sure that we're diving into what you're interested in and not just kind of just talking, just to talk. So we're going to talk to each other, but while we're talking about that particular subject, we really wanted to get some questions ahead of time. So we're putting that episode on pause, and we have something else for today. First and foremost, I hope everyone that's listening is doing well, that you're healthy, you're whole, and you're taking care of yourself. Stay, I don't want to say isolated, but stay indoors, stay
safe.
home.
It's real. Please socially distance. People are getting sick and they don't know it, and then they're getting other people sick, and it's not something to play with. I mean, I know people are not accustomed to being indoors for so long and not having anywhere to go or anything to do, but I mean, it's definitely better than the alternative. So just please stay safe, y'all.
And happy Easter/Resurrection Sunday.
Yes.
Today is Easter/Resurrection Sunday, depending on what you believe in. I'm not sure what day it will be when you hear this, but hope your Resurrection Sunday was good. Even though you were at home, there was plenty of things to do. If you do need any ideas of things you can do with your family, let us know. And we'll get back with you. We'll send you some ideas, some of the things that we do, what's kept us busy and together as a family during this, this social isolation, this social distancing age. Had a little tongue twisted for myself right there.
Goodness.
But yeah, so just let us know, and we're here to help. I wanted to remind you guys that you could follow us. Me, I am Travis Miller, Mr. Cornerstone. That's Mr. And my wife,
Monay Miller, confidently_free. And you tried to play me last time about the Mr. T thing. He does say Mr. T. Mr. First name, middle name, period, last name T. So the Mr. Cornerstone, yeah, that it made sense.
It's still a lame joke.
Whatever.
So.
And if you want to follow both of us together, you can follow us at Becoming, and then the number 1, and then the word podcast on Instagram. So, moving right along, I am going to be facilitating the quote of the day today. So the quote of the day is by D.H. Lawrence. And the quote goes, "I never saw a wild thing sorry for itself. A small bird will drop frozen dead from a bough without ever having felt sorry for itself." I actually heard this quote while I was watching a movie. The movie's called G.I. Jane, and I know it probably sounds a little cheesy or corny or whatever, but it's actually a really good movie. So I actually want to ask Travis, what do you think about that quote? What does that say to you?
Say it again for me.
The quote is, I never saw a wild thing feel sorry for itself. A small bird will drop frozen dead from a bough without having ever felt sorry for itself.
So we're talking about like wild animals?
Ideally, yes, an actual bird. But, I mean, it's applicable to you as a person.
Well, the first thing that it made me think of, if we're talking about like wild animals, is they don't have time to feel sorry for themselves. They're thinking of getting the next thing done. You know, a bird isn't thinking about, man, I sure wish I was a bigger bird, or I wish I was an eagle. You know, they were born whatever bird it was. If it is an eagle, you know, big ups to you. Shout out to all the eagles out there. Caw.
But what? If it make that noise.
Whatever they make. I can't make that eagle noise. But what they do is they use what they have, and they basically go off of what their instincts, and they get whatever it is that they need done. So that's kind of really what I thought of. But I guess I'd have to see the movie to really know.
The sum of the movie is, this is a woman who's trying to become a Navy SEAL. She's the only one, the first one ever. And so she has to basically overcome all these obstacles of sexism and all this other jazz. And so it's just basically her, you know, because a lot of times if you are someone who is the first, people will create all of these different barriers and try to prevent you from succeeding or achieving whatever the goal is you have in mind. And you could feel sorry for yourself about, oh, you know, they're trying to make it hard for me and no one's, you know, supporting me and everybody's against me. You could feel sorry for yourself, but that's not going to help you get to where you're trying to go. It's not going to help you achieve anything. It's not going to help you become more successful. And so that was kind of the mantra throughout the whole movie, which is a really good movie. But when I thought of it and when I heard it, I thought it was just so powerful, because it is true. Like animals, they're not thinking about, you know, oh, well, you know, the bird over there has, you know, these long, beautiful wings. The hummingbird doesn't care, you know, about other birds' wings, because the hummingbird has what it needs.
Unless they're trying to kill it.
Well, hummingbird is just trying to live its life, you know, and do its thing. And so it's not thinking about how big the eagle's wings are, because it has the wings that it needs to do what it needs to do to survive. Yeah. And so it's not feeling bad about the fact that it's small, or it's, you know, has a specific set of wings, or whatever the case might be, food source, whatever. They are so fixated and focused on living and doing what they need to do to survive, that they will live their entire life having never felt sorry for themselves or their circumstances or the situation. So I just thought it was really powerful, because I think as people we could really take that to heart, not feeling sorry for ourselves about our shortcomings or our faults or the things that we might struggle with, but just keep pushing through and doing what we need to do regardless of that. So I thought, you know, that quote was really powerful and could probably be really encouraging to people out there. You know, just don't feel sorry for yourself. Stuff's gonna happen. You know, people are gonna talk or do things or try to stop you, but, you know, don't feel sorry for yourself no matter what. Just keep pushing, keep working, keep grinding. You'll get there. So that's the quote of the day.
So in that context, I kind of get it, and I understand why they use like the wild. I never saw a wild thing.
I never saw a wild thing feel sorry.
I never saw a wild thing feel sorry for itself. So I understand it now, and that's the truth. You know, this is gonna sound horrible. I know out the gate, I know it's gonna sound horrible, but the truth is, like, people aren't coming to, you know, save you from your situation. Like, you have to stand up in your own life before people actually come and help out. Like people usually help out what they know is unstoppable. So feeling sorry for yourself, feeling sorry for whatever past relationship it was, or even, you know, your relationship with your parents or friends, or whatever cards you were dealt at the beginning of your life, isn't going to help you out. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to struggle, but that does mean you can get up and keep trying.
Right.
So I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like many of you, that I know of, like many of you, we're kind of indoors for the most part. And while we're indoors, we've been watching a lot of movies.
Lots of different movies, lots of different genres and such. Just, family movies or movies that me and Travis have been watching. Just really, trying to chill when we can.
Right. So during our day, we kind of wake up in the morning and we jump right into breakfast because Atara turns into a tyrant.
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
She's very hungry.
She's not happy when she's hungry. And then after that, we go into some type of learning for the most part or playtime. If it's during the week, I'm working. And then that kind of continues on and off for the next 8 hours or so. But in the afternoons, we go from cooking dinner to after we work out, we cook dinner, we clean, and then it's family movie time. And that's been pretty consistent since this whole quarantine thing started.
Yeah. And so with that, we have been kind of trying to see what TJ has been, or how he has been responding, rather. When we've been watching certain things, like the other day we watched Disney Nature, and so it was about bears, and we watched other stuff about elephants, and was it dolphins or sharks? I think it was dolphins. But today we watched Glory Road. Yeah,
I've been kind of wanting TJ to see some of the movies that I saw growing up. And to me, it wasn't, growing up, they weren't really that big of an issue. But it's a different world for TJ. I didn't think it was a big issue because some of the things that happened in Glory Road, if you haven't seen it, it's one of the best movies out there. You need to go see it.
It's pretty old, so it's what, like 2006 or something like that?
I think it's 06. But in either way, it's on Disney Plus. So if you have Disney Plus, you can see it. I'm not sure if it's on Netflix, but it's a great movie. It has some, I would say, adult content in it, even though it's rated PG. I believe it's rated PG.
I thought it was PG-13. Wow.
No, it's not PG-13. I'm pretty sure it's rated PG, but there's some language in it. And then there's just some scenes where you can, or at least I looked over and Monay was kind of cringing. I even wondered myself, like, I wonder if TJ's old enough to see some of this.
And the nice thing about that movie, well, I don't know if I want to say the nice thing, but the thing about that movie is there are certain scenes you can kind of see things alluding to before it actually happens. So it's not just like smacking you dead in the face without warning. So you can at least kind of prepare a little bit.
Well, just a quick spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. If you're listening to this, you haven't seen it and you're going to see it, fast forward to, I'll put a timestamp in this somewhere, but I'm gonna talk about the movie a little bit, and you can fast forward past this portion. So in this movie, it's about a high school girls basketball coach who goes and he starts coaching for a school, Texas Western. And during this time, there were, no black-led basketball teams. It was like a white world out there. So if you had a black player, there was maybe one or two. And they even spoke about it in the movie where he said there's rules to this. If you have one, you got to bench them or whatever it was. They talk about the rules in a pool hall where they speak of how many black players you can have on a team. So what this coach did, let me back up. So the school didn't give them that much money for recruiting, so they couldn't go after all these high-level recruits, right? And since he didn't have money to go after these high-level recruits, he basically had to do whatever he needed to do to find recruits. So he went to New York, he went to Detroit, and these other places, and he found some black players to play for him. And I believe they ended up having like seven on the team. Well, at the time, this was unheard of. It was just too many black players on the team.
Because it was in the 60s. I actually want to say it was 66 maybe, 1966.
somewhere in there. But there were too many black players on the team, so you obviously during these those are really racially motivated times. People were waving Confederate flags all over the place when they were at games and just things of that nature. So in the movie, it starts off with them kind of getting to know each other. If you've ever played sports, sometimes you kind of just bump heads with each other. It starts off like that, and then in the end, it's the all black players versus Kentucky. And it was just all white players basically, and it was just showing how black people were integrated into the sport, but it was kind of a view on society as well. Uh, but it's a pretty good movie. If you haven't seen it, go see it. There's a lot more in it than that. There's some scenes where they're in a hotel room and people use what looked like cow blood, and you know, and they wrote messages on their walls.
Racial slurs.
There was a scene where they got beat up in the bathroom. Well, one of the players was beat up in the bathroom, jumped by a couple of white men. So things like that are in it. And I was, I guess we were wondering, like, man, is TJ really old enough to be exposed to?
Because he's 5.
That
he
type
just
of imagery?
turned 5 in January, so he's not like. I mean.
So what you think, Monay? How do you feel about that?
I think it's hard because I grapple with the concept of, okay, what's too much sheltering, what's not enough sheltering. I wrestle with the idea of desensitization in today's society. I don't want to over shelter him, and then he's out and about. When he starts kindergarten next year, in the fall, well, this year in the fall rather, and he's around other kids and they're talking about stuff, or he sees something and he doesn't really have a point of reference because it's something that we might not have touched on or visited in conversation. I don't want it to be something that he sees and it's like a traumatic thing for him, because I mean, even though it's in a movie, the desensitization piece of it would kind of be like, oh, well, it's just a movie, he'll be okay. But no, I mean, I think he's young enough to where if it's vile or violent enough, it could actually cause some type of trauma. With that particular movie, I think because he can't really understand what an actual racial slur is. Like, he can see the word, but it wouldn't mean anything to him. They were using racial slurs against the white people in the movie, and to him, they were using a term that's not considered a slur in TJ's brain. TJ just assumes, oh, this is something you get from the grocery store when you eat it when you're eating chili, or if you put cheese on it. Like, he doesn't understand calling a white person that is a racial slur. He can't comprehend what the N-word is or what it means unless you try to explain it to him. But even then, does he really grasp it? I don't know. I mean, he understands Dr. Martin Luther King, and talked about that in school a little bit, but I don't.
He understands that he was killed for racial reasons.
Yeah, but I don't know if he fully, he understands, but I don't think he fully comprehends the vile, really just wickedness that comes along with it.
But I don't think you ever will really be able to fully comprehend that until you actually comprehend death, right? So then when you comprehend death, then you really understand like what type of mindset these people had to be in on both ends.
So why do you say death though? Like, why death?
Because you don't understand what it is to have your life threatened. So if you don't understand what it is to have your life threatened, then a message is just, a message. It's, it's the same thing as them watching, and I'm just saying what I think here, but like in TV, cartoons or whatever, the superhero is always threatened, and they always get to that brink, and then poof, magically everything's okay. But when you start to see, like people that actually die, then it's a different story. Like he understands, and he like insects dying. He understands killing insects,
Yes.
and that they don't come back. And I know that he understands that people die, but he's never actually seen it die. So I don't think he'll ever be able to really fully understand what was going on until he
Can connect with it.
right,
Because even like,
or even just see it.
well, see it. Because okay, so when you say see it, I don't think, and that makes me go back to the desensitization piece because one of TJ's favorite characters, he loves Spider-Man, absolutely loves Spider-Man, and one of my favorite animated movies is actually the that Spider-Man movie Into the
Universe,
or whatever it's called,
multiverse,
whatever it's called. It's the one with the I think the kid is like a Hispanic Spider-Man, Miles Morales. Loves that movie. TJ loves that movie. And in the movie, there's multiple Spider-Man. And the original Peter Parker in the movie is actually killed. And there's no, smoke screen. There's no alluding to it. Like, obviously, they don't put the camera directly on it as it's happening. But it's backed up far enough to where you can tell this dude got hit. He's not getting up. He's dead. And so for that to be in a children's film, it's like
that's in a lot of Disney movies too.
It is. And so that I was using that as an example of the desensitization piece. It's like at what point, like to what magnitude does it have to be for it to be real? Because 40, 50, however many years ago, to be introduced to something like that, would that have made it any different? Because it's not seen as prevalently in regular daily cartoons, movies, conversations, music, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, as you get older, it's just a fact of life that the people that you know around you are going to pass on, whether it's your grandparents or otherwise. And at that point, you start to connect what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
You start to, what sorrow is and things of that nature. But for TJ, here's my thing about it, where I didn't think it was wrong for him to actually see it, is because he's already been exposed to that. Like we moved down to Charlotte from Kalamazoo, Michigan. While in Michigan, he was exposed to racism, blatant racism, with me. I know, just out in the open twice already. One of the times, people drove by, and they just shouted out, "Hey, you got some nice looking gator bait in your back seat." And I'm like, who said that? And as I'm turning around, they're skirting out of the gas station parking lot. And then another time, people.
And TJ was with you?
Yeah, TJ's right there. And after I turn around to see them, I turn back to TJ, and he's asking me, "What's gator bait?" So I'm already having to explain these things to him. So whether we want to or not, or whether we like it or not, he's already being exposed to it. Even the fact that there's, and I don't think that, I don't like to call people racist or whatever if they're not being racist. But if you have kids, please get them some multiple cultures of.
Expose them to diverse
get some diversity
cultures
around them. So, because kids, they don't hold back.
They don't.
And there's many kids who we have met, their parents or otherwise, either in the grocery store or at church or whatever, and they'll ask a question like, why is their skin dirty? Or why does he look like a chocolate? That's a chocolate man. Like, I've been called chocolate man so many times on so many different occasions in multiple places. And TJ's always like, why do they call us that? Why do they say my skin is dirty? I just had a bath. I'm clean, Dad. I'm clean. It's like, I know, TJ, I cleaned you. So I know you're clean. So, he's already being exposed to different type of instances, whether he recognizes it for what it is right now or not. It's in his subconscious, which is real. We talk about trauma all these things. Your brain doesn't necessarily forget everything. It just
Right.
kind of stores it away. So these things are already happened to him. He's been around while my uncle talks about people throwing like rocks and things of that nature at him while he's trying to mow his grass. So he's heard stories of it already. They've talked about Martin Luther King in his school.
And he's in preschool.
Yeah, he's in preschool. They talked about him being murdered while he was fighting for racial equality. And he knows that. So he's already exposed to it. So I don't really think that I think that there's a point in not showing him like everything right now, because I don't want to raise another generation of people who hate because of skin color, because that's ignorant. But I don't want to leave my son exposed to people who hate him because of his skin color.
Yeah, and we've tried to make it a point to teach him to love and appreciate all of his features for who he is. Speak well of his sisters, tell them they're beautiful, and just really love being, his little melanated self with his locks. And it's just, I don't know, I don't want to say it's scary, but it makes me a little bit more conscious of how to, I guess, introduce things to him. Because, even some scenes in the movie, some of the black players, after they were exposed a couple of different occasions to people or fans or attendees of the games in the crowd shouting and throwing things at them, and they started to kind of feel a certain kind of way about their white teammates, and their white teammates were trying to tell them, we're not like them, it's not us, they said those things, we're in it with you guys, we go out there too, and things have happened to us. And so I think in that sense, it kind of at least teaches him or exposes him to that sense of solidarity.
And I don't think he'll jump into like the whole, white people are evil thing. I don't think he'll jump into that.
No.
Because he's a pretty loving person.
Yes, he is.
And that's one thing that I do have concerns about, and I definitely don't want him to get into, is, that type of thinking. But my thing is this: I've already promised myself that I wouldn't lie to my kids about anything. So if he's asking me, I'm gonna tell him the truth.
Yeah.
If he's curious about these things, he's being exposed to it. I have like a obligation to tell him the truth about it. When I was coming up, we lived in Michigan, but both my parents are from Florida, so we made these yearly trips down to Florida. And one of the rules was you always go to the bathroom with your brother. So I really related to that scene where the teammate got jumped in the bathroom, because there were times where I would go to the restroom as we're traveling to Florida on these stops where, you would get these looks like, they kind of looking to see like, who do you have around you? Like, can I do something to you right now? Or they'll, people will, just little side remarks. And I think that's kind of why even now, like if people ask me questions, I don't really give them too much information outside of what they're actually asking for, or if they're trying to pull information out of me, I don't really give them too much.
Like a surface answer to begin with?
Well, like somebody will say, hey, don't I know your mother? Especially when we were up in Michigan. Hey, I know you from somewhere.
Like, oh, you do? What's her name?
Exactly. I'll say, oh, okay. So where do you know me from? Who are you? And so instead of them, they're trying to draw out who I am, but instead of me just going, oh, my name is, Travis Miller. I'm here. I go to this, that type of thing. I'll ask them a question. So if they know me, they'll be able to say it. If they don't, then, it is what it is. I'm going to move on. But especially if I'm in a place, I don't know where I am. I don't know who you have with you. I don't know what your mindset is and what your plans are. So you definitely don't need to know anything about me, especially if I don't know anything about you.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where some of that draws from. But even coming up in Parchment, we've had people run up to the door. They've left like crosses in the front yard. We've had people call into our home, and when my parents were selling a Buick, they called in and said, "Hey, if you tell your if you tell your in wife to come out here, then I'll buy your car. If she comes out here and do me a favor, I'll buy your car." I'm hearing this stuff on the phone. I'm a kid. I'm hearing this stuff on the phone. My dad runs out there. The car skirts off, leaves, tread marks in the grass. People running up and literally tackling our door when we moved into a nicer neighborhood, tackling the door, beating on stuff, leaving, just random things in the yard for you to see. So at any point in time, he can be exposed to it. And whatever point in time that is, he needs to be, what's the word I'm looking for? He needs to be ready.
Like prepared?
Prepared, yeah, so that he could respond appropriately.
Yeah.
Because if you go through something like that and you're not prepared for it, you're not ready for it, you can really go down the dark road.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's why a lot of people now kind of take that dark path. And some might say that, well, if you're going to go down that road, you would have gone down that road anyway. But no, that's not true. That's not true. People have their own experiences, and their experience through life tints the lens that they see life. Mm-hmm. So if he has a set of experiences from his past and he sees life in a certain view, and then boom, like that's shattered or ruined or whatever, who knows what that would cause him to do mentally.
And when you talk about the perspective and the view of life, and that was one of the things when we were looking at schools for TJ, because where we live, there's a school of choice. You can kind of shop around, so to speak, and see what the different schools have to offer. And there was one school in particular I went to go visit, and I just liked the school. I liked what they were offering. I liked the staff. And for a second, I was kind of like settled. I was set on this particular school, and then I had to go back and I looked at the demographics, and the school was majority African American, which, being African American, that wasn't really a issue or a problem, but I asked myself, would I be doing my child a disservice to send him to a school with majority African American, students and staff, administration, all that jazz, and not give him the opportunity to regularly be around diverse groups of people. I know Travis would talk to me all the time about his time, in college, and how he met all these people from all these different countries. So he has a perspective on, what this culture is like and what that culture is like. And I had to really look and say, okay, I like this school. Yes, this school has this, that, and the other to offer TJ. But culturally speaking, from the teacher's perspective to the administrative perspective to the student population perspective, I didn't feel right. I didn't feel I would do him service to send him to a school where he's not being able to be exposed to different cultures, so he can really truly get a firsthand experience of how other cultures and people and individuals from diverse walks of life and socioeconomic situations are like. And when I think about that movie Glory Road, and how in the real world the 7 black basketball players were the minority, and then we got to that scene towards the end where there were how many 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5 white basketball players on the team, and one of the players was saying you guys are getting the start and you're getting to play, and we're the minority. And for that first time, they felt what it was like to actually be a minority. And so, I don't know. I just think when it comes to real world experiences, it is only right to give TJ an opportunity to spend time with other people. Because, I mean, when he was in daycare back in Michigan, depending on which daycare it was, he kind of got a little bit of time where it was diverse, and then we had to switch. And then the other place he went was, majority, African American. And even now, the school he goes to, the class he's in, is all African American. So I think it would just do him well to be able to kind of interact and spend time with different people. And am I rambling? You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. You're kind of rambling. We're getting kind of long, so we're gonna, kind of end it here.
Sorry, y'all.
But I had just one last thing to add on that is that I'm kind of, I have nothing against any culture, race, ethnicity, whatever. Um, but when it comes to the school system, that I don't really think that it would be a disservice for him to go to a place that was, majority African American, simply because he I think he would be seen.
Mm-hmm.
So coming up for myself, me coming up, let me start over. So coming up for me in my past, I've went to majority white spaces, with whether that was school or from school in Parchment. I think it was. I'm not sure what the ratio was in high school or middle school. That was more mixed than anything, but definitely in your first years of school. My first years of school in college was majority, white, which it's not, it's not an issue. But when you're in those spaces, you're just not seen, especially for like black men.
And I wasn't gonna say that. I was gonna say your perspective is probably
you're treated differently.
Yeah.
So you have to act like extra nice, or you're seen as like, oh man, I'm scared of that guy. So even in elementary school, like, man, this kid's a troublemaker. This kid's a troublemaker. That's what they were. It was me and one other black kid in my class. Troublemaker. If you do anything, oh, he just wants to start trouble. No, it was, I was actually just standing up for myself. But, thank you, teacher. So, but when I've had other teachers who looked like me, they more so saw it as like, I understand where this kid is coming from, or whatever. Or even at work, right? Like, I have to put on a voice.
Oh, I know. I get it. My bill collector voice.
Yeah, you have to put on a voice.
Drive-through voice.
So that you don't come off as, threatening. It doesn't really matter what you say or sound like. You kind of just put on this voice and this persona, so that you don't come off as threatening. I don't feel like he would have to put on a persona elsewhere, And I'm not saying that you have to do these things, because some people don't. But it's one of the things that's commonly done is putting on this, persona, and you change you code switch. You change your voice. You change, how you talk. One thing that I'll never change is what I'm laughing at, music I listen to or whatever. But you kind of just, you're not the same. So I want him to be comfortable while he's learning, and I want people to see him. And I'm not saying that they have to even look like him. So I'm not against diversity. If you're hearing this, please don't think that I hate you because you're white or anything or any other race or ethnicity, because I don't. I'm just trying to share part of my story and how I came up. So I have nothing against those spaces. I just don't think that they're better. I don't think that they're better than, and I'm not saying that's what you were trying to say.
I know.
I just don't think that they're better because of, there's less of us.
Less or more.
Right.
And I think I was probably, because my experience, and you already know this, but my experience growing up, it was always just about half and half. And so elementary school, middle school, high school was always mixed. It was never more of one than the other. And then I went to good old Grand Valley State University. Loved the school, but I was like the chocolate chips in the cookie. there wasn't a whole lot of us African Americans on campus, and so when we saw each other, we were like, oh, there's one of like 50 of us. Obviously, it was more than 50, but we knew that it wasn't a huge African American population on campus. And so I grew up feeling uncomfortable if I wasn't in a mixed presence, so to speak. And so I don't know. I don't know if I just, and I never had an issue where I thought I wasn't seen or heard. So I guess in my mind, I never really fully considered that for him. But again, a black male experience is different than a black woman's experience. So there's things that you think of or you see or you look at that I might look at, see, or feel a little bit differently.
Yeah. So I think that was a lot, but if y'all have any suggestions or ideas, or if you've gone through something similar, if you haven't gone through something similar, whatever it is, let us know. Comment, share, talk to us, send us a direct message, hit us in the DM or email, let us know, and we can even come back and talk about this, because I think it is something that is an ongoing discussion. We have not come to any type of conclusions on it yet. We're just here talking this through with you. So let us know what you think about everything that we said, about the school system, about, being in spaces where you might have to code switch. Let us know what you think about, exposing your kids. What age is too young to expose your kids,
and at what level? Like, do you just talk about it? Do you allow them to see movies, read books? Like, how do you go about that?
Like, when are y'all exposing your kids to quote unquote the real world?
And are you doing it, or are you letting the schools do it?
Right. I think one of the things to consider is, like, we go to a pretty diverse church as well, and one of the things that that's actually one of the reasons why we went there. Mm-hmm. But if you're in these spaces, especially at a diverse church, you kind of, at least the days that you're at church, you feel as though you've passed that point in life. Like, oh man, we finally got past racism. But then after you leave the church, you're dealing with it, during the week. So shout out to my church. We love y'all. Thank y'all for accepting us.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
Really helping. But how are you guys navigating that with your life? With church, with school, with your jobs. What's going on? How are you guys navigating that with your kids? For us, like I said, I will never tell a lie to my kids about anything in life. I'm not going to. What?
Fix it.
What?
There
I'm
you
I'm not going to lie to them about anything in life, especially if it's preparing them for things to come. I want to set them up to have a full life and to be able to protect themselves as well as enjoy. So it's a weird and complex topic. It's ongoing. Let us know what you think. This is Travis Miller, a.k.a. Mr. Cornerstone.
And this is Monay Miller, a.k.a. confidently_free.
Talk to us. Follow us on Instagram at Mr.Cornerstone. And Monay just said hers.
Confidently_free.
And this is the Becoming One podcast. Follow us on Instagram, Becoming the #1 podcast.
Also, if you guys need prayer for anything, or if you want to share something, again, just hit us up in the DM or send us an email.
Right. The email
is becomingone podcast@gmail.com.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Let us know. Talk to us. Comment, share, and
subscribe.
And we'll get back to you soon. All right. Peace.
Be easy.